For many parents, this is an important time as it's report card season. It's time to check in on your kids and see, are they actually doing their homework? Are they actually working at school? What do their teachers make of their progress over this first little bit of the school year? This past week, my sister sent me just a text message picture of my nephew Joshua, who just started kindergarten in September, of his first report card. And it's really cool to see, right? Maybe for you guys it's normal, you've had lots of kids and you've done it a lot. But for me, it's the first time really like for a nephew or like a niece or nephew to see like their report, right? Someone kind of looking in from the outside of our family and giving their take on his status, right? On how he's doing in this new environment in school. I think I mentioned before that Joshua, he's awesome, but he can be a little bit shy, right? And so the first day when he went to school and came home, and when all of us heard that he came home and said, you know, I'm so happy because now I have 10 friends, right? Now he made 10 friends like on the first day. It was great. And it was great reading through this report and just hearing some of the things about how he's good at sharing and he's got good friends that he's with regularly and he plays with them and he listens and all of these things. It's so nice to hear. It makes me so proud as an uncle, even though I don't have much to do with it. It's mainly his parents, his good parents. But one of the things that they mentioned was that aspect of him with friendship. And I think it will be true for him. I don't know if you can tell already from that age, but I think he will be the kind of person that is a good friend. Already there's evidence like he's pretty loyal and he's pretty faithful to his friends. What I want to speak about, and the reason I bring that up, is what I want to speak about in the homily today. What I think connects really all the readings is just one word: faithfulness. Faithfulness. I think it's a powerful word, and it's something that can really help us maybe this week and going forward. Faithfulness. Mother Teresa speaks about being faithful. One of her great quotes that I love is, she says, God has not called me to be successful, but he has called me to be faithful. He hasn't called me to great success, that I have to be successful in worldly ways. That's not the most important thing. But he wants me to be faithful. That's what it's all about. Today in the readings, I mean, they're pretty doom and gloom, right? If you're listening carefully, especially to the gospel, the words of our Lord, everything's going to fall apart, right? It's all terrible. It's all disaster, destruction, look out, right? All the bricks, like the stone isn't going to stand upon stone. It's all going to be destroyed. It's all falling apart. Listen to what he says. He says that the evil ones will be set on fire. Stone will not be left upon stone. They will be thrown down. Nation will wage war against nation. There will be devastating earthquakes, famines, plagues. Christians, you and I, will be persecuted and hated because of the faith. Pretty depressing stuff. What are we supposed to make of all of that? Why is he saying all of this? What is the lens, the angle that we look at it through? I don't think it's mainly just, I mean, it is to warn us for sure, but I think there's even something deeper. And I think it's a call to faithfulness, right? It's a call to faithfulness, that if we put our hopes in success and worldly things, in bigger houses, and in anything in this world, it's all going to be gone, right? It's all going to be lost. If you put your hope and your faithfulness there, you're going to be really, really disappointed when it falls apart. But if you put your faithfulness in God, you will not be disappointed. If you're faithful to God with the way that you live your life, you will have your pathway to heaven. Jesus never says that his mission in this world is success. He never set it up that way. He never came here to be the man with the greatest reputation, to have the most power, the most wealth, any of these things. That's not what his life was about. When we read the Gospels and the story of his life, it's not a story of success. In fact, many saw when it ended, when Jesus was crucified, that at that point anyway, his life was failure, right? It wasn't successful. He died. He was killed. But yet, that's not the mission, the purpose, the vision for his life. Rather, he sees his own life as a witness to faithfulness to God. I have come not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. My desire is to do the will of the Father. For Jesus, the most important thing in his life was his faithfulness to God, his faithfulness to God the Father. If you think about, for many of you, for me in a different way as a priest, like I've made my promises, right? And my promise isn't that wherever I go, the parish will grow and become like the biggest, and I hope that, right? And I try for it, the biggest and the best parish. We'll have lots of people, we'll be doing lots of awesome things, and many people will come to like new life in Jesus. That's the hope for sure. But that's not any of my promises. My promises are to be faithful to Jesus. That's what they're all there for, to be faithful to Christ. For many of you who are married, what is your promise to, right? Is your promise that your husband says to you, I will go to make lots of money so you'll never have to worry? Or for the wife, maybe something else, right? What are your promises? You say, I promise to be true to you in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health. I will love you and honor you all the days of my life. Again, none of those are really tied up in success. In fact, they're saying the opposite. That I promise, what it comes down to is to love you and honor you all the days of my life. I will be faithful to you. I will be faithful. In the first reading today from Malachi, he prophesies and the Lord speaks. He says, "For you who fear my name, there will arise the Sun of Justice with its healing rays." We hear about the destruction, and if you're wicked, look out, right? But for those who are faithful, if you fear the name of the Lord, the Sun of Justice will shine, and you will experience its healing rays. The rays of the Sun of Justice will heal your soul, and you will find delight. We can imagine, right, that there is only one sun. I mean, in the sky there's only one sun, but if you think of the sun as Jesus, right, there's one God. There's Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And if the rays of God were to shine forth, if they shine upon you and you are caught up in wickedness, right, in sins, in lies, in destruction, that same light, that loving light of God will shine upon you, and you will hate it. You will hate it. It will hurt. It will be painful. You'll want to run away and hide. You can't stand the presence of God because you're in opposition to him. And for us in varying degrees, we know that experience when we sin, right? We know what that feels like. We already have glimpses. But also that same Son of Justice, that same holy God, shines the same light. And those who are following his ways, those who love him and are close to him, will not experience those rays as rays of pain, but of rays of pleasure and delight. For them, they will want to stretch themselves out. Remember still, I hope, what it was like in summertime, how we enjoyed the sun. It gave us, we wanted to soak in it almost. We enjoyed the heat and the energy that came forth from it. In a similar way, when we follow God closely, we enjoy and benefit from the rays of light that shine forth from him. I just want to briefly give one example of someone who lived out faithfulness to God, whose life was not a life of success, worldly success, but about faithfulness. He is Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati. You may have heard of him. He died actually quite young, before he could complete his university degree. He was a young man. But yet that early death does not define his life. It was a life that was fully lived and that was super generous. His life is a story of faithfulness. At the age of 17, Pier Giorgio Frassati joined a parish group that had a big impact on his life. It was his local St. Vincent de Paul Society. This group strives to live out the gospel message by serving Christ in the poor. And they do this not just through kind of throwing money out or they don't do it from a distance, but they try to get right in there, to get their hands dirty, to step right into the reality. What they strive to do and what he loved so much was going to people's homes, going into the streets, visiting and meeting with people who were in real need and hearing their stories, listening to them. Maybe if you can, sometimes you can't. Offering a little word of advice or a little word of encouragement. For him, he was so happy when when there was that opportunity for him to share some of his faith and the encouragement of what it's like to have a life of faith. For him, he loved that personal contact and he loved the poor. Some of the examples, and what I love about Pier Giorgio Frassati is that, he's a saint not of great miracles, but he's a saint of such ordinary, honest, wonderful faith. How this was lived out. 2 examples. One was when he was making his visits with St. Vincent de Paul, he visited a mom a new mom who was still in the maternity ward. And for her, she didn't feel, I'm not sure why, but she didn't feel like she was ready to leave the hospital yet. She still needed some help for her or for her newborn baby. When Pier Giorgio visited her, he saw this, and they were pushing her out, right? Her time was up. She had to go out. It was time to free up that bed. But Pier Giorgio Frassati, when he heard of this, he went and found a way, actually. He talked to the nurses, talked to the doctors, and it was through him that he convinced them to allow her to remain a little bit longer until she had all the help that she needed. Practical, real, faithfulness, right? Where you see a need and you try to do what you can to help. And he was able to in this case. Another story of a prisoner who just got out of jail. He was without work and he was really struggling. And for him, he couldn't find anyone who would hire him. He met Pier Giorgio, and when he heard about this story, he himself went around the town to all the businesses, looking until he could find one that would hire this man who had this criminal record. Again, another practical story of sanctity, right? That he goes, he sees the need, and then he goes out and tries to help to fulfill it, to make that connection, to allow this man then to find a good job. Is our life based on success or faithfulness? Do you see the difference between the two if you set your life up for success or for faithfulness? Just 2 more things. So one is that I don't mean that you shouldn't work hard, right? I don't mean that you shouldn't seek out the promotion at your work or something like that. But my main point today is saying that can't be the primary thing. If that's all your life is about, you're going to be very disappointed. But for us, we're called to something deeper. We're called to be faithful. One last thing. A friend asked Pier Giorgio, he asked him, because he would see him going around, it's really weird, right? And one of his confreres, why are you going helping all of these people and doing all of these things? They said to him, these people, they're disgusting, they're filthy, they're smelly. How do you do it? How can you tolerate all of this? And his response was, Pier Giorgio said, Jesus comes to me every morning in Holy Communion, and I return the visit by going to serve the poor. For him, he prayed a lot, right? He was a man not just doing good works, but he was doing them out of love for Jesus. And he was doing them because he was finding Jesus both in his prayer and in the poor that he was meeting and that he was serving. Pier Giorgio, even before his family would get up, in the mornings he would go every day to Holy Mass. He was a man of serious faith, real deep prayer. But yet that prayer couldn't let him sit still. That prayer pushed him to go constantly and with great intensity to serve those where there is need, to find the need, and to offer help. He received communion and thought that was such a gift and treasure to be able to receive Jesus into his heart and into his soul. But then he knew that Christ wants out, right? That he has to look for a way then to serve Jesus and to return that favor. If we focus too much on worldly success, we will miss our mark. Our vocation as Christians is not merely to be super successful. Our primary mission, our first goal is faithfulness. Faithfulness to God, faithfulness to our vocations. We have eyes to see the need. We have feet to go and to get there. And then we have the hands to actually to help out. For you and for me, something to think about today and this week is, how are our lives about faithfulness? How do we live out that call each and every day to be faithful to God and to be faithful in our duty to caring for those in need?